Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special Tuesday edition of Stacking the Box. Iain, MacMillan, Sterling Holmes here. We are back together again for the first time. And I guess we weren't together in either show last week, Sterling. You were off Monday. I had to take Wednesday off. I was sick. So we are back recapping week 6 action a day late because of the holiday on Monday. So now we are together. Not only can we recap Sunday's games, but we can also talk Mondays. The Monday game between the Bills and the Jets last night. Sterling, how are you doing?
Good. The gruesome twosome's back, baby. We're back. I missed you.
Yeah, we are. But yeah, I got sick Wednesday. I had to back out last second. I left you to do the show by yourself. I apologize for that. I then went to a wedding this past weekend, and now I'm back in New York, and I'm still not feeling well. I don't know if it's still the cold from last week. I don't know if it's a hangover still from the wedding. I don't know if it's a new sickness I have this week, or maybe a little A, little B, little C. So, but I was not going to, pass up on 2 shows in a row. So I'm here to recap week 6. But before we get into it, Sterling, it is the greatest time of year. Again, football is back. It's here to stay until February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Win up to 1,000 times their money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite players' stats. I got to make an Underdog lineup for this week's game. I did not make one on Sunday because I was back in Nova Scotia. I didn't watch a single snap of football until Monday night, unfortunately. I am still reeling over that one loss that I had. I needed Devin Singletary to get one more carry. But regardless, on the show tomorrow, I will have an Underdog lineup for the people for Thursday Night Football. And guess what? Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code Stacking the Box, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Stacking the Box, all one word, to claim your new customer special of a free pick in your deposit offer. Do it now, because tomorrow I'm going to have an Underdog lineup for the people, and I'll do my best to make it a winner. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, which is 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Sterling, favorites dominated week 6, by the way.
Right there. No. You were the favorite, and you dominated that. Like you were the Ravens right there. You were the
Falcons.
The Falcons right there. You were the we'll go with the Buccaneers right there, because you dominated. Favorites were just destroying teams this past week. It lended well to, if you were on Underdog, you probably made some money. Yep. If you were throwing some cash down, it was probably a good week to invest right there, because the favorites were just going up and down the field, dominating teams. It was an impressive performance from a lot of teams. I think we learned a lot. I think this is starting to get into the part of the season where teams are really starting to separate if they're real, if they're pretenders. The Saints, for example, yes, they are injured. They're on a 4-game losing streak. That 2-game start to their season.
Yep.
Pretenders. The Buccaneers, who sit at 4-2. I think you can start to say maybe they're more for real. We knew about the Falcons, so I'm not going to try and pump you up too much there. But again, I'm starting to get that feeling of, okay, we're starting to see who teams are. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, 10P Kid said it all chalk over this weekend. Books lost. Road to 272. I went 10-4, so I had a very good week betting on my games as well. I think only 2 underdogs won outright, and they're small underdogs. One of them was actually the Bears, who were favorites all week. They closed as a 1.5 underdog against the Jaguars, so that was one underdog, and the other one was the Colts, who closed as underdogs to the Titans, 2.5 points. Only underdogs to win this week, and then only one more underdog covered. The Browns covered, didn't win. So 11-3 against the spread. Favorites went this week.
You were gone, so I didn't do it because you would have made fun of me. I was going to pick, I was like, the Colts are going to beat the Titans. Titans stink. But I'm like, there were 1-point underdogs. I'm like, I can't do this because Ian's going to make fun of me. So I took the long shot, and what happened?
You lost.
Stupid, Ian.
Yeah.
I got bullied by you who was not even here. I got peer pressured by a man who was not even on the show.
But yeah, with this, I mean, the season started, it was all underdogs, especially what was it, like week 2, was it? There was 1 week, like almost every single underdog won. All the underdogs of like over 7 points are winning all season. But I said it on my podcast last week, is every single year we see some kind of, not every single year, but a lot of years we see some kind of anomaly happen through the first few weeks, whether it's a ton of unders hitting or a ton of underdogs like this year cashing, or even in years past has been favorites have done very well to start the season. At some point during the season, and it usually happens around now, there is a correction week. We see a little bit of regression to the mean. Underdogs were not going to win at that high of a rate for the rest of the season. We're going to see probably, a kind of a normal distribution of underdogs and favorites the rest of the way out. We were due for a correction week with favorites bouncing back in a big way, and that's exactly what happened this past week. Which did make for, like you said, we did learn some things in terms of which teams have kind of separated themselves as contenders and which are pretenders, but we didn't. A week where it's all favorites, especially not only favorites winning, but favorites covering the spread, don't exactly make for a ton of exciting games, to be honest.
Sure. We can even start with the London game.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's multiple storylines, I think, stemming from this one particular game. I actually picked the Jaguars in this one. This is one of my few losers this week.
Interesting.
And the reason being is I go, okay, they're playing for Doug Peterson's job. He's coaching for his job. Trevor Lawrence needs to try and turn the narrative, or else that contract is going to look real bad real soon. And I'm sitting here going, they've played in London before. They understand the travel. It's a lot different week than any other week in the NFL, right? That travel to London for that game, it's very unique. But they've done that. So I go, they have a massive advantage here. The Bears, with a rookie quarterback, not only is he getting integrated in the NFL, well, now you have to go to London. I thought that was going to be very hard for Caleb Williams. Boy, was I wrong. Because the Jaguars folded like a paper plate, and the Bears are starting to show that they're kind of hitting their stride.
Yes.
Keenan Allen finally getting involved. I believe he had 2 receiving touchdowns in this game. DeAndre Swift, the past couple of weeks, is really starting to come on after a lot of Bears fans had their ire towards him. The Bears are starting to become one of those teams that is a good football team. While the Jags, man, if they, again, they're lucky they have one more game in London, because you're not firing your coach halfway across the pond right now with one more game in London, right? Because I do think Doug Peterson may have been
It would be kind of funny if they did that, though.
It would be pretty funny. All of a sudden you have like, Ted Lasso. Like you actually get Jason Sudeikis to coach for a game. Just be like, screw, the season's over anyways. It'll be fun. That'd be great. Hey, Jason, what are you doing? Come on, Sudeikis. Go coach a football team. Hey, football team, not soccer. Be great. But if they lose to the Patriots, or if it's even close, hell, they might destroy him, and he still might get canned. I think Doug Peterson is a dead man walking at this point, because I don't see how they stick with him after this disastrous season.
Yeah, a couple quick thoughts from me for this game. Number one, the Jaguars, I mean, and rightfully so, Trevor Lawrence has not played his best football this season. He had a really good game last week, but he's in, this is kind of the issue with Trevor Lawrence, is we see the performances that he had in week 5, where he threw for like 350 yards, had a near perfect game. That's the ceiling of Trevor Lawrence and Sterling heading into the season. I think we both said this about him. The issue with him is that we just don't see that version of Trevor Lawrence enough. We see that version 3 weeks of the NFL season. So we know the talent and skill is there. We know the ability to have huge performances is there. But in a 17-game season, you can't bring that version of your play 3 weeks. That's just not going to cut it. And to be fair, the Bears secondary is one of the best secondaries in the NFL. So I'll forgive Trevor Lawrence a little bit for this past week's performance. The real blame for the Jacksonville Jaguars belongs to their defense. Their defense is atrocious. Bottom 3, bottom 5 in every single metric stat you want to look at. Caleb Williams torched them. But I will say this about the Bears offense now on the flip side of things, and I think we also said this heading into the season, was that the Bears were going to have a slow start to the season. The expectations for them were sky high heading into the year. I thought they were going to be slow to the gate because you got, the amount of new pieces you have on that offense. Obviously, 2 rookies with Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams, a new piece in a new system. in Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, a new piece, a new offensive coordinator who wasn't there last year. So there was too many new pieces to expect the Bears to come out firing. It took them 3-4 games to kind of find their stride, and now they've hit their stride. Now, granted, the 2 games that they've hit their stride were against the Panthers and the Jaguars, 2 of the worst defenses in the NFL. But still, we're seeing Caleb Williams, the way he drops back. He looks more comfortable now. Even their run game is going a lot better now. The Bears, and they need to get hot right now because the end of their schedule is unbelievably difficult. They hit their stride at the right time because now they have winnable games against Commanders, Cardinals, and Patriots. They got to win at least 2 of those games because then, I don't know, Sterling, if you've looked at the Bears, the rest of their schedule, it's tough. They end the year Packers, Vikings, Lions, 49ers, Vikings, Lions, Seahawks, Packers.
Hey, good teams have to win games against other good teams. I mean, that's the name of the game. So, but you're right. Stacking wins now should at least alleviate some of those concerns down the stretch with a rookie quarterback, a lot of pressure on him.
Yes. Speaking of rookie quarterbacks, 2 more rookie quarterbacks made their debut this weekend. I'm interested in your thoughts on how they played, Sterling. Spencer Rattler, Drake Maye, both obviously lost their respective games. Spencer Rattler for the Saints the Bucs put up a 50-burger against them, and Drake Maye and the Patriots got overpowered by the Texans. But from what I could tell, and once again, I was in Canada, so I was not able to really watch football much on Sunday. I followed along as much as I could. It seemed to me like they had at least strong performances for rookies who got to step in against pretty good teams, 6 weeks into the season for their first career start. Could have gone worse.
Yeah, I think Drake Maye's, if you're a Patriots fan, you're pretty excited. Mm-hmm. I think you're more excited there of, okay, we saw 3 passing touchdowns. Yes, 2 interceptions, but 21 points for the Patriots. You're like, oh, wow, look at this offense. They're clicking on all cylinders. I think Drake Maye looked pretty darn good. He made some really nice plays in the game, a couple times spitting out of pressure. I think if you're a Patriots fan, you have to be at least pretty excited with Drake Maye. Spencer Rattler, I don't know. Made a couple nice throws. 2 interceptions again for him. Little different situation where Rattler obviously was supposed to be the backup all season long. So he more or less was thrust into, had 1 week to really prepare. Drake Maye, yes and no. I mean, Drake Maye, I think we all assumed at some point was going to get the starting job in New England.
Right.
So he had a little more of a lead-up period. So for Drake Maye, I think he answered a lot of questions, or at least on the excitement level. And Spencer Rattler, I think, was put into a fairly poor situation, or maybe poor situation is the wrong word. A harder situation. I would have liked to see more from Spencer. I hope he gets another shot, another full week to really prep. But I don't have a grade for Rattler because I do think it's a little tougher spot to go in than Drake Maye.
10B Kid says, I'm not sure why they didn't give. Is it Hayner? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, he came in against the Chiefs. State.
Well, Spencer Rattler, I think, had the better. He was supposed to be like a number 1 pick coming in college, wasn't he?
Well, yes. And then he had a really.
Spencer Rattler would have the more raw talent, and they wanted to see how it would work at the NFL level.
Well, it didn't work in college.
Yeah, right. Well,
he made all those T-shirts at was it Oklahoma before he ever played a snap, and then everyone was like, "Oh man, this is not the guy."
And now, not to get ahead of ourselves, obviously we're going to preview the next week tomorrow. But now he's on a short week, and we'll have to play against one of the best defense in the NFL in Denver. So
that's tough.
Spencer Rattler's got a tough test ahead of him. As much as everyone's talking about rookie quarterbacks, how many rookie quarterbacks started this week? Was it 5 or 6? 6 rookie quarterbacks started this past week.
Bo Nix, Rattler, Maye, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. Am I drawing a blank on one?
Did you say Bo Nix?
I said Bo Nix.
Maybe it's just 5 then. Regardless, my point is, people are forgetting there's still a top 10 rookie quarterback out there who has yet to play a snap. A little secret weapon the Falcons still have in their back pocket. But the way Kirk's playing, we might not see Michael Penix Jr. until he's 30 years old. So, but yeah, I am. Obviously, I don't want to see him play because that means something's going to happen to Kirk. But I'm still fascinated to see how Penix Jr. is going to play when he finally makes an appearance. Once again, won't happen for years now, it looks like.
Man, Falcons fans are hard to please. For Kirk Cousins threw for 500 plus yards just 2 weeks ago, and they're like, "No, we want to see Michael Penix Jr." It wasn't 6. Man.
I wish we had I wish the NFL had like a G League or something, so we could see Michael Penix Jr. in some kind of football action.
They do have a G League. It's called college football.
Well, yeah, but Penix can't go play there though.
No, he's 29 years old. He's my age.
Yeah,
he's 30.
What was your takeaway from the Washington Commanders playing with the Baltimore Ravens? As a Commanders fan, do you, even though you lost the game, do you walk away happy? Do you kind of treat that as kind of a moral victory, being able to hang with arguably the best team in the NFL right now, the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, I hate when people say, like, in professional football, being like, yeah, it's a moral victory. It's like, no, this isn't fifth grade. Like, you don't get clementines after the game. You don't get a juice box at halftime. But if you are a Washington fan, I think you have to be thrilled with the season so far. You're 4-2.
Yeah,
you got the guy. Jaden Daniels is that guy. I don't want to crown him too early, but he looks like a legitimately really good quarterback.
Yep.
You're on the road, right? I mean, I know the Ravens covered and all that stuff, but I don't want to say moral victory, but I think you're enthused about where this team is heading. Yep. Right? The defense is going to be a struggle. We knew that.
Yeah.
But the offense still put up 23 against a really solid Ravens team overall.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what the downfall is going to be of the Commanders. It's the defense.
Yeah.
We know that. But no, I think you have to be very enthused. You're ahead of schedule if you're a Washington fan.
Yes. Because I don't think Washington fans, and I don't want to speak for them here, but I don't think they went into this season expecting playoffs. I think to them a winning season would have been, Jaden Daniels looks like he's the guy. And now they're getting, not only is Jaden Daniels definitely the guy, we're probably a playoff team, and I think I'm going to check the odds. They might be the favorites to win the NFC East, which no one had happening, because the Dallas Cowboys stink. Steamrolled by the Detroit Lions. At home on Jerry Jones' birthday. Commanders actually still not the betting favorites. Eagles still favored at plus 120. That's a little surprising to me.
I'm not surprised. They have the track record. I mean, you want to talk Eagles now or later? Yeah,
we'll talk Eagles later, because we're going to finish the show. Since usually we finish the show with Monday Night Football preview, we're not doing it since we're going to recap Monday Night Football here in a second. But we're going to finish the show looking at the playoff picture and kind of talking about some divisions, specifically the NFC East. So,
okay.
But I do want to talk about the Cowboys because that was a disastrous performance against the Lions.
This is who the Cowboys are.
They might
win big. No, they win big and they lose big.
Right.
Like I've never seen a team fold so quickly when they get down, or put the pedal on the floor when they get up. They'll be up 30 and they're doing play action.
Yeah.
They'll be down. They'll be down 10, and it's like, okay, it's over. We're done. Like, I don't get them. I don't think they're a bad team. Like, I'm not quite there with you where you're like, oh, they stink. I don't think they're a bad team. I don't know if they're just mentally weak. I don't know if they're just that inconsistent. But yeah, like, this was not a surprise to me. This is what they do. When they lose big. When they win big. Jekyll and Hyde. It just, they're a fascinating team.
I want to bring up net yards per play. I know I bring it up too much, but this is, guess what team the Dallas Cowboys is tied with in net yards per play right now?
The Giants.
The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oof.
Minus 0.5 net yards per play.
Oof.
Not good. Whose fault is this? Is this Mike McCarthy's fault? Does he get fired? Is this Jerry Jones' fault for just how he runs this team? Is this Dak Prescott's fault for kind of putting up good numbers, but never really being the guy when they need him to be the guy?
I mean, it's a cop-out, but it's everything. Jerry Jones is too involved. Jerry Jones is too much about Jera.
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy is a fine coach. Like, again, I think he's fine. Like, I don't think he's bad. I think that's a little overblown, but I don't think he's good. He's fine. And then Dak Prescott's kind of the same boat, where above average quarterback who puts up a lot of empty stats, a lot of empty calories. I mean, he's had a great career for, was it a 4th round draft pick that I don't think a lot of people had a whole bunch of expectations for?
Yeah.
Like, great for Dak. Like, he's made himself a really good career. He's got weapons. He's had offensive lines almost perpetually.
You know who the Cowboys are low-key missing this season? Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
Their defense is not. I mean, their defense wasn't great last year, but they are competent. Their defense is they're getting bowled over defensively.
They've given up 168 points this season.
Yeah,
which is more than the Arizona Cardinals, who I think we've all agreed has a really bad defense.
Yeah, opponent points per game, they're giving up 28 per game. Only 2 teams worse than that, the Jaguars and the Panthers.
Yeah,
not good company to be. Not good company to be in.
No.
And yeah, that's something not a lot of people have brought up, as the absence of Dan Quinn. Say what you will about Dan Quinn. I've had my experience with Dan Quinn. Still think he's a very good coach. I mean, look at what he's doing in Washington. He was a pretty solid defensive coordinator. Still has a lot of things he's got to figure out with the defense in Washington. But the Dallas defense, despite having largely the same roster from last season, I know they lost Leighton Vander Esch, but added Eric Kendricks. Largely the same roster from last season. They are now a bottom 5 defense in the NFL.
Yeah, and Trayvon Diggs is just getting cooked.
Oh, terrible. Any thoughts about Monday Night Football last night? The flags got to stop. Yeah. I don't know what the answer is for the flags. I don't know if the NFL just needs to tell the refs that if the penalty's not super obvious, kind of let it go. But as a viewer of a product that is supposed to be for entertainment, in a game that is the Bills against the Jets, Josh Allen versus Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football, that game sucked because every play is either a flag or you expected a flag. We got to fix this issue purely from an entertainment perspective. I know from a competitive perspective, you want every single penalty called, but when every single potential penalty gets called, we get what we got last night, which was a boring, frustrating game to watch because you couldn't even celebrate a play because every time there be a play, you have to wait 10 seconds to see if there's a flag. And most of the time there was.
First half was awesome. First half was electric. There were fewer flags. It felt like the first half was great. I loved watching that game. That first half, at least. Incredible. The Hail Mary from Aaron Rodgers was, he did it again, which I don't know why you rush to. The one thing you can't do is give the 40-year-old who has trouble moving that much time to get his feet underneath him. Mm-hmm. What are we doing here, guys? Mm-hmm. You know that's what he's trying to do. Come on, Bills. You're better than that. And then if you're the refs, what are you doing calling the roughing the passer on Aaron Rodgers in that situation? Rodgers came out after the game. He might get fined for calling out a penalty that he said was horrible against him.
Yeah.
He was the benefactor of this. He's like, that's not roughing the passer. What are we doing here? Even the one on Josh Allen, I'm like, okay, I see it more, but I wouldn't have called either. And some of the holds, I get it. There were obvious ones. You can't keep holding, especially if they're going to keep calling it. You got to play a little more straight up. But there were a couple of defensive holds and defensive pass interferences where I'm like, man, that's not a penalty.
Yeah.
Or the ball's so uncatchable. How is that going to be called? There were 2 that were uncatchable. I think 1 for each team where you're like,
yep,
dog, that's 9 yards out of bounds. How is that pass? If you're going to call holding, defensive holding for 5 yards, okay. That ain't pass interference. And on the offensive line, if a guy's holding and it's not affecting the play, maybe let it go. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. And if I'm a fan of the team, maybe I want every single penalty called. I get that stuff. But that second half in particular was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm laughing. Was the over going to hit? It was 20-20 in the third quarter. And then, of course, the kickers decided to do their thing. I don't know if they split a handle of Jack Daniels before the game or what, because they couldn't hit anything. Wind's blowing left. And they're like, well, let's start off with the left goalpost. What do you think is going to happen, guys? That doink was so loud, it sounded like the intro to Hell's Bells by AC/DC.
Yeah.
What are we doing here, kickers? Great game overall, though, besides the refs. The refs blew it, but that was that was a fun game to watch outside of the refs.
Just to recap the penalties, these are accepted penalties. The Bills had 11 penalties accepted for 94 yards. Jets had 11 penalties accepted for 110 yards. So 204 yards of penalties in that game. That's unacceptable. And credit to Rodgers for calling it out rightfully. in the post-game press conference. I mean, it always does generally. It's kind of a sore loser move when you lose a game and do it. But I mean, he was right. And like you said, even the one that he called out was a penalty that was called on roughing the passer on him. So he's going to get fined for that for sure. But like, we can't I don't like the players get fined for that. I kind of get the sentiment behind it, but like, we can't just when the refs do this bad of a job and ruin a product, we can't just we can't just pretend it didn't happen. It has to be said.
And Espinosa, what's he supposed to do? I'm not actually trying. What was he supposed to do? He didn't put all of his body weight on him.
Right.
It wasn't like it was a hip drop tackle. I don't know what he was supposed to do different. I literally don't know. I love the refs to actually explain what he was supposed to do different. That'd be awesome. Say, hey, do this next time. And it would be bending the laws of physics, because that was one of the more mild hits in the game. Hell, the one that he sacked Rodgers on earlier was way more vicious. Yeah. Also a legit sack, but that was way more vicious. I'm just perplexed on what they want these defensive players to do, because that resulted in 3 points. Yeah, that was a direct correlation to a field goal for the Jets in that game. Yeah. So I mean, that's giving a clear advantage on a clear non-penalty. That can't happen. Those holds, I understand, because most of the times they're probably holds. That was not roughing the passer. And I'm very glad that Aaron came out and talked about that too.
Well, 10P Kids is an unpopular opinion. There's holding on every play, which I agree with. I feel like that's kind of an old adage that everyone says, which is true. If you go by letter of the law, there is holding. You could call holding on every single play. So he says let them hold or make the linemen wear special gloves where they can't hold. I think it's just you have to only call it if it's egregious and it directly affects the outcome of a play, which certainly happens. But
yes,
you could call holding every single play.
Correct.
Much. All right, let's take a step back here. We're 6 weeks into the season. Excuse me. Let's take a look at the playoff picture here. Let's start with the AFC, because I think the AFC is a little bit more straightforward. I'm actually going to bring up officially what the playoff picture is right now, but the division leaders are the usual suspects. I believe all of them were betting favorites to win their respective divisions heading into the season. The Chiefs right now 5-0, obviously sit at the 1 seed. Texans 5-1. Ravens now winning the AFC North. Bills winning the AFC East. So all pretty straightforward there in terms of division leaders. The wild card race in the AFC is going to be what's going to be fun to watch, because right now it's the Steelers, Chargers, and Colts, with the Broncos just on the outside, tied with the same record as the Colts, but at 3-3. But I guess the Colts have the tiebreaker. The Dolphins and Jets still alive, 9-10. The AFC is extremely top heavy. The bottom half of the AFC is atrocious.
Yeah.
Jaguars, Patriots, Browns, Titans. So, I mean, all these teams with 2 wins, the Dolphins, Jets, Raiders, Bengals, are still kind of alive. Very much so.
Are just trying to hold until Tua comes back.
Yep.
But I still think the Jets probably sneak in. Maybe I'm wrong.
If you had to say one of 2 teams, either the Jets or Bengals sneak in, because they're both 2-4.
Yeah, I'd say the Jets. Because they still got to play the Patriots. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that should be a win.
Right? They still play them twice, if I'm not mistaken.
They beat them earlier.
They beat them early. They only got one more time. Okay. I got to see when they play the Dolphins. If it's with or without Tua. Yep. Without Tua, that's a win. Right? I mean, the offense was the best the Jets offense has looked this season, right? I mean, Rodgers looked good. Offensive line was suspect at times. Really, Tyron Smith, I think, struggled in that one, surprisingly. Breece Hall had his best game of the year. Garrett Wilson was very, very effective. Allen Lazard is still making plays. Mike Williams looks atrocious. That's one negative. Mike Williams looks bad, dude.
Bad to the point where you start to feel bad for him.
I felt bad for him. I do feel bad. I'm like, what happened? Chargers almost. Long story. I still think it's the back injury that the Chargers played him through, and you got a re-injured the back and stuff. Was it last year, 2 years ago? I'm like, dude, what are you guys doing to him? You're gonna seriously injure this man, and he seriously got injured, and he's really not looked the same since. Yeah, I feel for Mike.
He has no confidence. Like, he's not playing with any confidence at all.
No. And Rodgers just looks like a disappointed dad anytime he throws the ball to him and he does not come down with it. And again, that was a hard catch. He had to try and stick his foot in and try and come back. And he also dropped one that hit him right in the bad area. Hopefully he was wearing a cup. I feel bad for Mike. But I still think the Jets find a way. Quinnen Williams needs to step up. I like Sauce Gardner, obviously. DJ Reed had a bad game, but DJ Reed's typically a really good cornerback as well. If you told me Jets or Bengals, I think the Bengals defense is just too bad. And I think the Jets are at least a slightly more well-rounded team.
It is interesting. I'm looking at NFL.com, the official playoff picture, and it has playoff probability next to each team. It has the Jets at a 55% chance to make the playoffs, but the Bengals at a 32% chance to make the playoffs. I don't know where they get that probability because the betting odds have the Bengals at plus 115 and the Jets at plus 155. So the betting odds basically have that flipped. Neither of them have a higher, even close to a 50% chance to make the playoffs. So I don't know where NFL.com is getting this playoff probability from. They seem to think the Jets have a better chance of making the playoffs than the Bengals. The betting market would disagree with that pretty strongly. So,
I mean, I guess for me, I think that the Broncos will be done. Like, I don't believe in the Broncos. I know their defense is really good, which is going to help them out a lot. I just don't believe in the Broncos. Chargers, I don't think.
I think the Chargers might be kind of good. Their defense has been extremely good.
And that's what it is. Their defense has been really good. And I'm surprised by that. Like, I'm surprised by the defense. That's the biggest difference for me is I don't think the defense can keep doing that. Can they keep winning games 17-14?
Well, that might be the Jim Harbaugh.
14-10, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But this is the issue with the AFC wildcard is all these teams stink. All of them do, except for the division leaders. Every other team in this conference stinks.
Yeah.
So if the Chargers don't make the playoffs, who gets in instead of them? The Colts, they stink too. The Steelers are 4-2. I'm still convinced they stink. There's the division leaders and the rest of the conference stinks.
Yeah, but the Steelers, I'll give them credit. They're plus 38 point differential. Like they've not been fluky. Justin Fields,
I still think they're fluky. I'll never buy in on the Steelers. It never makes sense to me.
Well, it doesn't, but they're plus 38.
I know. You're
they're
right.
They're plus 38, that's better than the Chiefs.
They
the
just
Chiefs
keep
are plus 33.
Mike Tomlin it might be the greatest football coach of all time.
I mean, seriously, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense.
He keeps doing this every single year. A team that doesn't look like they should be winning games and the box scores don't look impressive, but yet at the end of the day, the Steelers win.
They do the little things. They do the little things correct.
Yeah. Don't turn the ball over. They beat the Raiders because they had a plus 3 turnover differential. Those are the things that matter. So the AFC is extremely confusing in terms of the wild card. I think division winner is going to be Chiefs, Texans, Ravens, Bills.
Yeah.
The NFC is where things get very interesting because the playoff picture in the NFC is fascinating to look at right now. We have 3 of the 4 division leaders did not make the playoffs last season. The Vikings have the top record in the NFC at 5-0, who their odds were to finish last in the division. They are 5-0 in the NFC, and they're not fluky. Their metrics, especially defensively, have been extremely good. The Falcons are winning their division at 4-2, which they were the favorites after their offseason to win their division. The Commanders at 4-2 are winning the NFC East. And then the 49ers are winning their division, but they're in the 4th spot right now at 3-3 with a 500 record winning the NFC West. And then you have the Lions, the Bucks, and the Packers, all playoff teams showing up the wild card spot. But it's funny to look at the NFC compared to the AFC right now, the wild card picture. Right now, the last wild card team is the Colts in the AFC at 3-3. The Eagles are 3-2 with a winning record, and even the Bears are 4-2, and right now they're on the outside looking in. The NFC, from top to bottom, well, not the NFC has a lot more depth, I think, than the AFC. Now, maybe the top-heavy teams in the AFC are better, but the NFC, there's very few terrible teams in the NFC.
Yeah, I'm surprised by this. I think Niners stay. They're 3-3. I think they're trending up. Atlanta and Tampa, I think, are legit. I do. I don't know how legit as far as top end. Atlanta and Tampa are, but I think on any given week, they can win and beat any given team. Mm-hmm. We've seen that with the Buccaneers. Their offense can just all of a sudden come out and look just one of the best in the NFL. We've also seen them go out and it looks like they're the Panthers offensively. Like the Buccaneers are a weird team. Falcons are less so. The Falcons are trending the right way. Kirk Cousins, that offense is starting to get going. I think the Falcons win that division. The NFC North makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, let's talk NFC North.
Because I don't think the Vikings are legit, and I don't get it. All four of the teams in the NFC North have the best point differential of any. Those four teams, the top 4 point differentials in the NFC. It's crazy.
Yes.
Again, I'm higher on Detroit. I think Detroit finds a way to win this. Maybe Vikings get second. I'm still... Ooh, we got breaking news.
Is that breaking news? Davante Adams? It is. Ian Rappaport. The Raiders are completing a trade of star wide receiver Davante Adams to the Jets. I don't see any details yet, but it looks like that, which has been rumored now for a couple weeks. It looks like Aaron Rodgers, after Mike Williams disappointed him one too many times last night, is getting his old friend Davante Adams back in the mix.
Wow.
Does that change? Let's obviously pivot a little bit. Does that change your opinion on the Jets moving forward at all?
Yeah. I mean, yes. Their offense looked the best it looked last night, and the concern was they needed one more wide receiver. Mike Williams struggled so bad. He was brutal. We've talked about this. Like, you add Davante with Garrett Wilson, with Allen Lazard, who he trusts, who's been dropping a lot of balls this year. Don't let last night's performance all of a sudden make you think Allen Lazard is back. Like, that was a great game, but he's been struggling this season. You're telling me Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams? Ooh.
Can I ask a question?
Ooh. You can ask all you want, baby.
And I'm not saying this is what I believe, but I want to ask the question. Is Davante Adams still as good as everyone says that he is? Is he still going to be the difference maker everyone expects him to be with New York?
Difference maker.
Davante Adams has been around a long time. And I know he hasn't had great quarterback play the past couple seasons, and he's still posting some solid numbers. And I'm not saying I believe this take. I mean, he still had last year 103 receptions, over 1,100 yards. So maybe I'll just answer my own question.
1,500 the year before. Like, he's had nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So he is still the guy he used to be. At 32 years, at almost 32 years old. What?
I'm not saying he's the same guy he was 3 or 4 years ago, but I am saying he is still a 1,000+ yard receiver, 1,200+ yard receiver. He's not top 5 anymore, but he might still be top 15, bordering on top 10.
Yeah.
Like,
also, I'm realizing this is depressing me because I'm looked to see how old he is. He's 3 days older than me, and I'm here asking if he's washed. Someone in the chat, Lazard is leading the league in TDs. Give that man a break. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm just saying he's had a lot of drops. I think he also leads the NFL in drops. So it's a combo. It's a combo. Yeah. I'm
not saying Lazard's a bum. That's not what I was saying. I'm just saying that I don't think he should necessarily be. They need another wide receiver. That's the point. I'm not saying Lazard needs maybe less PT. I'm not saying Lazard shouldn't be on there. He made one of the best catches you'll see last night. Dog couldn't see anything. A linebacker was blanketing him, and Rodgers fit it in between the linebacker's hip. Somehow Lazard still came down with the ball. Lazard had a great game. Phenomenal game.
The other question that needs to be asked, do they bench Garrett Wilson? So then Aaron Rodgers instead throws to Lazard and Davante Adams.
What?
Like in Green Bay. He only wants to throw to former Green Bay players. Bench Garrett Wilson. Put in Davante Adams. Keep Lazard as number 2.
Randall Cobb coming back, baby.
Yeah. Bring Jordy. What's Jordy Nelson up to?
Jordy.
Yeah. Okay, so we do think Davante Adams is still a top 10 receiver.
Top 15 for sure.
Border top 10.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I'm not going to argue that. It was a question that I had to ask though. Okay, that's going to be interesting. We'll see, because was he missing games because he just didn't want to play for the Raiders, or was he actually hurt?
I think he also had a little hamstring injury.
So is he going to be playing this week then? The Jets play the Steelers Sunday Night Football.
I would be shocked if he did not.
All right, that'll be interesting. And we'll see if the line for that game actually moves. Actually, I'll take a quick look now to see if that moves. Jets were 1.5 when I bet it last night. The odds are off the board. Okay, interesting. Do you want to wrap up this division talk and then we'll end the show?
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, in the NFC,
NFC North.
NFC North, I think Detroit still finds a way. They look really impressive. Defensive, they're a lot better, but the loss of Aiden Hutchinson is going to be huge. Aiden Hutchinson was having a Defensive Player of the Year type of candidate. I mean, he was ridiculous this year.
Yep.
Brutal injury. Don't watch it if you are squeamish. That was gross. Vikings, I think, are legit, but I don't think they're going to be 17-0. They'll come back to earth at some point. Green Bay, I still have some concerns, but they're getting answered. Every time I think Jordan Love is a little bit of a inconsistent quarterback, he proves me wrong. And then the Bears, we've talked about, they're coming on strong. I think 3 teams make the playoffs from this division.
We're going to find out a lot about this game on we're going to find out a lot about this division this week because it's the Lions against the Vikings. Have you looked at the betting odds for Lions Vikings yet?
I have not. I would assume Lions. Wait, where's it at?
It is in Minnesota. Guess the line.
Lions -2. I mean, yeah, Lions -2.
Vikings -2.
I am ripping the Lions, dog.
I took the Lions too, because and this is kind of my issue with the Vikings. Yes, they have looked extremely impressive in 5 games. Don't forget they were on bye last week. Yes, their defense has been elite. Have we seen enough through 5 weeks to say that on a neutral field, because a 2-point spread at home basically means that on a neutral field, you would make the Lions and the Vikings a pick 'em? They're just as good? I wouldn't. I'm not ready to say that yet.
Yeah. Again,
I need a little bit of a larger sample size in 5 games before I'm ready to say the Vikings are as good as the Lions.
Correct. Same.
All right. So we agree with that. There is a chance now with the expanded playoffs. All 4 teams from a division could make the playoffs. We're not going to see that, are we? It'd be so tough because a division, in theory, would cannibalize itself a little bit.
Agreed. Maybe Washington or the Eagles sneak in. Maybe it's Tampa. Yeah, I think you'd cannibalize yourself. That was my thought. I think 3 teams make it, but 1 gets left out.
And sorry, did you say which team you think gets left out?
As of now, I'll say Bears.
Yeah. Bears, like I said earlier, the last 8 games of their schedule, 7 games of their schedule are extremely tough.
Yeah.
And they haven't played any NFC North games yet. And all 6 of those games they're probably going to be underdogs in all 6 of those games. Barring obviously injuries and stuff like that. NFC East. We briefly touched on earlier, and we'll finish the show with this. The Eagles still favored. I was a little bit surprised by that. You're not. You still think the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC East?
I still think they win it. I will say Washington's the only team with a positive point differential. Again, I think point differential is not a great way of always going about it, but I think you can start getting there now. Like early in the year, there's going to be blowouts, right? When Miami beat Denver last year by 60 points, that's a horrible way of saying which team's good, which team's bad. That's 1 game. It's only 1 win. But we're starting to get more into the middle part of the season where you can start to, or at least, 1/3 in? We can at least start to take something from that.
What about net yards per play?
Again, there's always going to be flaws with everything because net yards per play, when a team's up a lot, they run the football, those get driven down. Again, I think there's always going to be a flaw with everything.
Yes.
That's life. I think the Eagles still win it. I still believe in Jalen Hurts. I still believe in that offense. The defense is going to have to get things. There's too much talent defensively. I don't believe in Nick Sirianni. I think Sirianni's a really bad quarterback. I think he's a horrible quarterback. I mean, head coach. Sorry, I got so angry. I think Nick Sirianni is a
on the field.
Horrible head coach. I think he's a bad quarterback too. I think he's a horrible head coach. He's such a poser. Chirping at fans by beating the Browns by 4 and you're yelling at your own fans. What a horrible look. Gosh, dude, I wouldn't be surprised that even if they make the playoffs or anything, he still doesn't get canned. You cannot expect to win big games when he's your head coach. He's more worried about what he looks like to the fans than he cares about winning ball games.
Yeah, the Eagles lose this week to the Giants. They might fire Sirianni.
They should.
Yeah.
They'd be better.
Washington, just worth noting, Washington does lead the NFC East right now in net yards per play, plus 0.1, but that's still 17th in the NFL right now. Not great. Yeah, I would have expected by now that the Commanders would be the favorites to win the NFC East. I don't know what each team's remaining strength of schedule is like. Washington still has a ton of NFC East games to play. But they're at the very least, they got a shot to win the division, and I don't think I heard anyone say the Commanders were going to win the NFC East. Everyone, including us, Sterling, said it was either the Eagles or the Cowboys, and then that was it. There wasn't even a conversation about the Commanders winning.
Correct.
Yeah. Just to kind of put a bow on this Davante Adams trade, it'll be for a conditional third-round pick that can go to a second-round pick per source, because I think that's what the Raiders were looking for, were a second-round pick. So basically, they might get that depending on how this season kind of works out for Davante Adams. I don't know exactly what would turn that from a third-round pick to a second-round pick, but there you go. Davante Adams officially in New York, play for the Jets. All right, that is the show. We'll be back Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern. So I guess that's just tomorrow to preview week 7 of the NFL season. Only 2 teams on bye this week, the Cowboys and the Bears. So we got 15 games to go through. But we do have another Monday Night Football doubleheader this week, with one game starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is kind of late. Yeah, 10 P Kid single-handedly holding down the chat today. Appreciate it, my friend.
Legend.
He's also said Jets win from +1 to -1. There you go. So Jets are now favored against the Steelers. We'll see if Davante Adams does play, but probably will. Any final thoughts, Sterling?
This is a wild NFL season, and anytime you think you know what's happening, that means you know nothing.
Yep. Agreed. Except we do know that the Falcons are going to win the NFC South. By the way, I meant to say this earlier. Last note, Buccaneers next 4 weeks. They got the Ravens, Chiefs, 49ers, and Falcons next 4 weeks. So the Falcons have a chance to create a little separation, because that is a tough. Obviously outside the Falcons, but those three. I mean, they have probably the 3 best teams in the NFL. They have to play across the next 4 weeks. Tough stretch for the Bucs. We'll see if they can survive that 4-week stretch. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to Stack in the Box on YouTube, rate and review the audio version of this podcast. And we'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, to preview week 7 of the NFL season. Talk to you then.